Every great achievement begins in silence. It starts in the space between uncertainty and belief, in a place where no one else can see what you see. That's where dreams are born. Before the applause, before the spotlight, before the world says, yes, you've got to say yes to yourself. Most people never start, not because they're incapable, not because they're unworthy, but because they've been conditioned to leave their dream doesn't count. They've been told they're too old, too young, too late, too early. They've heard voices whispering, that's unrealistic. You're not ready. Or, who do you think you are? And those voices, they don't just come from others. Sometimes they come from inside. Echoes from past failures, fears, and self-doubt. But let me tell you something no one else may have told you. Your dream is valid. You don't need a title to pursue it. You don't need a resume full of experience to chase it. You don't need approval from your friends, your family, or even society. The only permission slip you need has already been signed. By your breath, by your existence. By the very fact that the dream was planted in your heart and not theirs. You were given that vision for a reason. You were chosen to carry it. Not someone more qualified, not someone more charismatic, not someone with more followers or degrees. You. That means you've got something inside you powerful enough to bring it to life, even if right now you can't see the full picture. Dreams are not about logic. They're not about math or odds or percentages. They're not built on what's probable. They're built on what's possible. And possibility lives in the unknown. Possibility lives in the people who are brave enough to say, I know you don't believe in this, but I do. You have to believe in it when nobody claps. You have to believe in it when the bank account is empty, when your inbox is quiet, when your efforts feel invisible. Because the seed of your dream doesn't grow in applause. It grows in persistence. It grows in silence. It grows every time you choose not to give up on yourself. Your dream doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It wasn't designed for public opinion. It was designed for personal transformation. It's meant to stretch you, scare you, humble you, and rebuild you. That discomfort you feel, that fear, that's a signal that your dream is calling you to level up. Not to shrink, but to expand. And yes, people will talk. They'll question your choices. They'll laugh, doubt, criticize, and dismiss. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. What they don't understand, they try to diminish. What they haven't dared to do themselves, they'll tell you is impossible. But that says more about their limitations than it does about your potential. You've got to protect your dream like it's sacred, because it is. Not everyone will understand it, and that's okay. Not everyone will support it, and that's okay too. Some people were meant to be in your life for the chapter before the dream. Not every voice gets a vote in your future. The committee of they doesn't get to decide your direction. You are not too late. You are not underqualified. You are not too broken. In fact, everything you've lived through has prepared you for the next step. That heartbreak, that setback, that failure. They weren't detours. They were training. Your story gives your dream power. Your pain gives it purpose. And your belief is the spark that will ignite the fire. You don't have to know all the steps. You just have to take the first one. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to move with the belief that something greater is unfolding, even if you can't see it yet. Your dream is not random. Your desire to grow, to create, to serve, to express, that's real. And it matters. And most importantly, failure is not the end. It's not the wall. It's not the proof that you're not good enough. Failure is the classroom. It's the raw material of growth. It's the real-time feedback of life saying, this is where you learn. This is where you sharpen. This is where you rise. The world has done a masterful job at convincing us that failure is final, that when something doesn't work the first time, it means we're not meant for it. But that's not how greatness is built. Greatness is constructed on top of broken moments, stitched together by persistence, not perfection. No one talks about the 100 failed tries before the one breakthrough. They celebrate the success story, but they don't always tell the full story. Behind every success, there are missteps, closed doors, awkward beginnings, lost money, rejection letters, and moments when quitting seemed like the only logical option. The truth is, those failures didn't disqualify the dream. They shaped it. And they didn't disqualify the dreamer. They forgied them. Failing forward means you understand that the setback is not a stop sign. It's a signal, a redirection, a call to refine, not retreat. Most people experience one failure and allow it to redefine them. They say, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm not cut out for this. But those who go on to build something extraordinary, something that leaves a mark, they process failure differently. They feel it, they absorb it, but they don't stay there. They use it. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to launch ideas that fall flat. You're going to give your all to something and sometimes get nothing in return. But that's the price of purpose. If you want the reward, you've got to be willing to wrestle with the risk. You have to be willing to stand in the arena, even when the crowd walks away, even when the floor shakes beneath you, even when the vision looks blurrier than ever before. And here, this clearing failure does not mean you're incapable. It means you're in motion. Stagnant people don't fail. People who never try, never risk, never build. They don't know failure, but they also don't know progress. If you failed, that means you've dared. It means you were bold enough to begin. And that boldness is your superpower. Failing forward isn't about liking the fall. It's about loving yourself enough to get back up. It's about not tying your worth to the outcome. It's understanding that every time you fall and rise again, you're building something deeper than skills. You're building resilience. You're constructing a foundation that can't be shaken by temporary results. You may get laughed at. You may be underestimated. Some will walk away because they can't see the vision through the fog of your failures. That's fine. You don't need everyone. You just need the discipline to keep showing up and the faith to keep walking through the fog. You keep creating, keep building, keep pushing, even with scraped knees and a bruised heart, because what you're chasing is bigger than one moment of defeat. Failure has no authority unless you give it a throne. And most of the time, what we call failure is really feedback. It's life's way of asking, are you really committed to this? Are you willing to be humbled so you can be sharpened? Will you keep going even when the promise hasn't shown up yet? The truth is, most people give up right before it starts to shift, right before the momentum kicks in, right before the opportunity finds them. They stop at the pain and miss the progress that comes after it. But those who keep going, those who walk through the rejection, through the empty rooms, through the silence, they discover something powerful. They find that what they once called failure was actually a fire burning away the doubt, refining their voice, and toughening their spirit. To fail forward is to choose courage over comfort. It's to say, even if I fall, I will fall with purpose. It's knowing that every failed attempt gets you one step closer to clarity, to strength, and to the version of you who is ready to carry the dream. Every person chasing a dream, every leader, every builder, every artist, every visionary, sooner or later, runs headfirst into the voice of doubt. That voice doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't always tell you to quit outright. It says things like, "Are you sure?" Or, "Maybe this isn't the right time." It masks itself as reason, logic, caution. But its real agenda is hesitation. It wants to plant just enough fear that you stop moving forward. Doubt shows up when you're tired. It visits in the quiet, in the lonely moments between effort and result. It multiplies when things go wrong, when progress is slow, when validation is missing. And if you listen to it long enough, it becomes familiar, like a background hum in your thoughts, making you second guess every instinct and question every move. Before long, you're standing still, not because you're out of options, but because you've been paralyzed by the power of the belief that you don't have what it takes. But faith is different. Faith speaks a different language. It doesn't need a guarantee. It doesn't ask for proof. It's not driven by applause or metrics or confirmation. Faith moves when everything says, stop. Faith pushes through resistance, not because the road is clear, but because the vision is real. And if doubt feeds on fear, faith feeds on fire. The fire inside you that refuses to go out, no matter how long it takes or how heavy it gets. You have to decide which voice gets the microphone. You have to choose every day to silence the doubt and speak to the part of you that remembers why you started. That's what it means to starve your doubts and feed your faith. It means choosing to believe that your life is not random, that your dream wasn't placed in your heart by accident, that your desire to grow, to build, to serve, to rise, that it matters. You don't overcome doubt with more overthinking. You overcome doubt with action. You silence the lies by doing the work, even while the doubt is screaming. You keep showing up. You keep trying. You keep building. Because action creates evidence, and evidence feeds belief. Every step you take forward, even the small ones, even the shaky ones, becomes a brick in the foundation of your faith. You've got to protect your mind like your future depends on it, because it does. You cannot entertain every fearful thought, every insecure idea, every unqualified opinion from people who gave up on their own dreams. Doubt grows when you give it room. But if you crowd it out with truth, with discipline, with forward movement, it starts to shrink. Feed your faith with what inspires you. Feed it with books, with mentors, with moments of stillness, with prayer, with purpose, with movement. Surround yourself with reminders that it's possible even when the results haven't arrived yet. Feeding your faith is not about being narvy. It's about being intentional. It's about saying, I know the odds, but I'm not betting on the odds, I'm betting on me. Because when you walk in faith, you realize that your power doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from being willing to take the next step without them. It comes from trusting the process when it doesn't make sense. It comes from believing in something bigger than the fear you feel. You've already survived worse than your doubts. You've already overcome more than your fear wants to admit. There have been moments you didn't think you'd make it through, but you did. You're still standing. You're still dreaming. You're still trying. That is evidence. That is power. That is proof. Most people wait until they feel confident, but confidence doesn't come first. Faith does. Confidence is a result of consistent courage. You build it by acting in spite of the fear again and again until one day the fear starts to shrink and the faith starts to rise. And even when the fear is still there, you move anyway because the vision is louder than the voice of doubt. Motivation is a spark. It gets you excited. It gets you hyped up. It's that adrenaline rush you feel after hearing a great speech, watching a powerful video, or catching a glimpse of what your life could be. But like any spark, motivation fades. It burns bright for a moment, then it dims. That's what it's supposed to do. Motivation was never designed to carry you the whole way. It was only meant to wake something up inside of you. What carries you? What sustains you? Discipline. Discipline is the structure that stands when the emotion wears off. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel about the task. Discipline doesn't wait for perfect conditions or creative inspiration. Discipline doesn't flinch when it gets hard. Motivation says, I feel like it today. Discipline says, I show up regardless. Most people start strong. They write the plan, set the goal, make the vision board, and ride the wave of enthusiasm for a while. But eventually life pushes back. The energy fades. Distractions show up. The first setback hits. And then the voice of compromise comes in, whispering things like, take a break. Or, you can catch up tomorrow. That's where most people lose. Not because they're lazy. Not because they're not talented. But because they were trying to live off of motivation in a season that demanded discipline. You won't always be inspired. You won't always feel like getting up early, putting in the reps, writing the pages, making the calls, doing the work. In fact, some of the most powerful days in your journey will be the ones you drag yourself forward, not the ones where everything clicks. Because it's in those moments, when you push without the rush, that something deeper is built. That's where identity is shaped. That's where character is formed. Discipline is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, even unnatural, because we live in a world that sells comfort. Everywhere you turn, there's an easier option, a shortcut, a distraction dressed up as relief. But discipline doesn't deal in shortcuts. Discipline takes the stairs while motivation looks for the elevator. The truth is, every goal you're chasing requires more than good intentions. It demands consistency. It demands sacrifice. It demands that you do it even when nobody's clapping, even when nobody's watching, even when the results are not immediate. That's why discipline is so rare, because it doesn't offer the instant reward. It offers long-term transformation. It doesn't give you a sugar high, it gives you strength. The greatest creators, leaders, athletes, entrepreneurs, none of them became great because they were always motivated. They became great because they learned to keep going when they weren't. They understood that success is not built on occasional brilliance, but on repeated action. Showing up when it's raining, showing up when it's boring, showing up when it hurts, showing up when it doesn't feel like it matters, because they know it does. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not loud. It's quiet, routine, often unnoticed. But over time, it compounds, it stacks. Every disciplined decision adds to a foundation that no setback can shake. And when that foundation is solid, the momentum begins to build. You start to trust yourself, not because of how inspired you feel, but because you've proven to yourself that you're reliable. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And discipline is the system that sustains momentum. When your emotions are unstable, when motivation vanishes, discipline is what keeps the promise. It keeps the appointment. It keeps the fire lit. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. People will ask you, how do you stay motivated? But the real question is, how do you stay disciplined? Because that's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Anyone can feel inspired. Not everyone can keep showing up when there's no applause, no recognition, and no shortcut in sight. But that's what it takes to build something real. You are not bound by the story you've lived. You are not locked into the version of yourself shaped by pain, by mistakes, by other people's expectations. Too many people walk through life wearing narratives that no longer serve them. Stories they didn't even write. Stories that were handed to them through trauma, through judgment, through years of conditioning that said, This is all you'll ever be. Somewhere along the way, someone might have told you that your value was tied to your performance, that your worth depended on what you could produce or how perfect you could appear. Someone might have made you feel small for dreaming too big. Someone might have convinced you that your background disqualified you. And over time, you may have started to believe them. You accepted that story because it was repeated often enough, and repeated pain can start to sound like truth. But a painful chapter does not mean a painful book. A rough beginning doesn't determine the ending. You have the power to rewrite the story you've been told about who you are and what you're capable of. You are the author now. The pen is in your hand. And no matter what came before, today can be the first page of a new chapter. Rewriting your story doesn't mean erasing your past. It means reframing it. It means acknowledging what you've been through, not to be defined by it, but to be refined through it. The broken moments don't disqualify you, they deepen you. They give you range. They give you perspective. They give your voice a kind of authenticity that only comes from experience. You've lived through enough to speak with power. You've survived enough to walk with wisdom. That alone makes your story worth telling in a new way. There is no rule that says the version of you from yesterday must be the one that shows up tomorrow. Growth is your birthright. Evolution is your responsibility. If you're not proud of the last chapter, don't hide it. Redeem it. If your last decision took you down a road of pain, don't stay there out of guilt. Change direction. You are allowed to pivot. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to become unrecognizable to the people who once knew you. Sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is look at the mirror and say, that old version of me served its purpose, but I'm not bound to it anymore. The struggle shaped you, but it doesn't define you. You are more than your trauma. You are more than the environment you were raised in. You are more than the decisions you made when you didn't yet know better. Your past may have explained you, but it doesn't get to limit you. The most dangerous thing about a negative story is not that it hurts. It's that it can become familiar. And familiarity has a way of convincing us it's safer to stay broken than to rebuild. But safe doesn't transform. Comfort doesn't lead to change. And the life you want isn't found in repeating the same storyline just because you know how it goes. The life you want is found on the other side of disruption. The moment you decide that who you were is not who you have to be, you rewrite your story through action, through small, daily choices that reflect who you're becoming, not who you've been. You don't have to broadcast the transformation. You don't need applause for the pivot. Real change doesn't need a stage. It just needs consistency. Every time you choose growth over fear, every time you respond with strength instead of surrender, every time you decide to rise instead of retreat, you are writing a new paragraph, a new page, a new version of you that no one saw coming. The beautiful thing about rewriting your story is that the world doesn't have to believe it yet. The results will speak louder than your intentions. You just keep writing, keep moving, keep proving to yourself that the power to change your life has always been within you, not in some external rescue, but in your own ability to reclaim the narrative and shape it into something stronger, deeper, more aligned with the truth of who you are becoming. Absolutely. Here's a conclusion that ties together the entire script in life. The path to greatness isn't always smooth, and the journey is often more about persistence than perfection. Your dream is valid even when others don't see it. Every failure is just a stepping stone to success as long as you choose to fail forward. Doubt will show up, often in the quietest of moments, but you have the power to starve it and feed your faith. When motivation wanes, discipline becomes your unwavering ally, guiding you through the times when passion alone isn't enough. And above all, remember that you have the power to rewrite your story. The past doesn't define you. The decisions you make today are what will shape the future. You are the author of your life. Your dreams are yours to claim. Your failures are yours to learn from. And your future is yours to create. The obstacles you face are not signs that you should quit. They are the very tools that will shape the life you've always imagined. Keep moving forward. Keep feeding your faith. Keep rewriting your story. Because at the end of the day, you are capable of more than you've ever been told, and the greatest chapter of your life is still waiting to be written.